Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight, we're going to be looking at Warriors of Plasm, a comic book published by Defiant Comics starting in 1993. It was the first comic book published by Defiant, which was the company that Jim Shooter started after he got booted out of Valiant, another comic company that he started. This comic company he didn't get booted out of. They fizzled out after like a year or two, and they went out of business, so they couldn't kick him out. But I'm pretty sure this is going to be the least popular video I've ever posted on this channel. I think I'm the only person who likes these comics. I've never read a good thing about them, never read a good comic review, never met a friend or acquaintance who's like, oh yeah, I love that comic. And I like these comics a lot. They're really bizarro. And considering that Defiant was, formed to compete on a mainstream level, I mean, they wanted to go up against Image and Valiant, of course, even Marvel and DC. But they didn't do it the normal way of just having some superheroes, getting some, sellable, bankable artists and writers. I mean, look at this. This is just bizarro stuff. It's like kind of hardcore science fiction. I mean, it's not like Larry Niven or anything, but it's really. It seems crazy that they thought this could be a mainstream success. I think the concepts are amazing. I think the art leaves something to be desired, but also it's incredibly imaginative, and. He's asked, David Lapham is the artist in this, years before Stray Bullets. He's asked to draw just like the craziest shit on every page. So it's kind of interesting in that aspect. Well, let's get started. Oy vey. I hope I don't get demonetized for showing these. Not that I am monetized. Okay, so the first issue of Plasm, it was called Plasm. Marvel sued them because they had a comic called Plasmer, so they had to change the name to Warriors of Plasm. By the first issue, we'll see that change. This first issue came out as a trading card set. So, a 9-panel grid on a comic, and it was trading cards, and you would get those binder sheets, those trading card, plastic sheets, and when you put them in the slots, it made a comics page. I showed off the second Defiant comic did that too. It was called Dark Dominion. And I can't remember which one, but I think the first trading cards, Tiny Canvases video I did, I showed off a little of that. But fortunately, I mean, that's not the best way to read a comic, especially when there's a splash page. There's giant cracks in between the quadrants, or how do you say that for 9? The nindrants of a page. So luckily, around the same month, or a month before Plasm #1 came out, Warriors of Plasm, previews as a free insert included that trading card story, and on normal paper. So this is much better than having those trading cards. And as you can see, this is David Lapham's art. He pencils it. This guy named Mike Witherby's the inker. Never heard of him outside of Defiant. And the art's pretty good. And there's a lot of crazy imaginative shit. If you look at these guys in the background, every panel in this comic is teeming with bizarro alien life forms. And, well, we'll see. So this is written by Jim Shooter. Apparently Jim Shooter and David Lapham collaborated on the concepts and the characters, but Jim Shooter does the script. This is The Death of Love, the Sedition Agenda prologue. And so this is the high concept of this comic. There's this planet in some other dimension. It's called the Org of Plasm. That's short for organism, because the whole planet is alive. Everything on the planet is made of biomass. Furniture, vehicles, they're all organisms of some sort. They're subservient to the main race on the planet, this humanoid race. But so on this planet, due to that, life is very cheap. To murder someone is just a misdemeanor. If you fail to recycle their biomass back to the org, that's like a death sentence. That's a felony, high felony. So basically on this planet, people don't consider themselves individuals. They consider themselves a cell of this giant organism, the planet. And due to that, they have no compunctions about just like, kill that guy. Just recycle him. People themselves don't even feel that bad. They're just like, oh, it's not really dying. I'll still be, part of the earth. So, they have a very different mindset than we humans. So we're introduced to Lorca. He's the guy on the cover with the stupid Goldilocks haircut. And he's the Supreme Inquisitor, one of the best. Now, basically, he's like a general who goes out to other planets, conquers them, and then basically takes all the biomass, including the inhabitants. Anything organic, they strip the planet to feed the maw of Org, the various maws. So we see this defeated people that he just brought back from their planet. He's had another victory. And a little insurgence breaks out. Some of these defeated people don't want to just walk into the maw and die and be mulched. They rebel. So Lorca flies down. We realize Lorca is just a pretty kick-ass, bloodthirsty warrior. He's just taking on like 50 of these guys and just killing them all. A lot of this, I have a feeling that at this time, David Lapham was influenced by Steve Rude. There's a lot of characters that look like they walked right at a Nexus in here. And we'll see one later on. Here they're building a ship. See, it's got like bones. This is some kind of vehicle. So every panel, David Lapham's got to come up with these crazy visual concepts. His art isn't that great. Some, even in Straight Bullets, some panels you'd be like, hey, that's not a very good face. But considering just the amount of invention he's doing, overall, I like this art. But there's some, it's David Lapham. He's not the best penciler in the world. He's pretty damn good, though, and he's a good storyteller, which is what I think matters. So Lorca gets a call from his good buddy, his best friend, Ulnaray. And Ulnaray, he's kind of a rascally, roguish type. And he says, come on, you got to come to the Splatterball game with me. We quickly realize from side dealings he does on the way to the game, he's a pretty shitty guy. I think he's an Inquisitor too. So he's very high up in the military. And not as high up as Lorca, but he's pretty morally bankrupt. So here we see the Splatterball game. This game is kind of ridiculous. It's basically all these bioengineered goalies, the renders, I think they're called. And they're basically giant monsters. But then there's players. And it seems like it's kind of like football. And the ball is alive. It's this cute little creature going, yeek, yeek. What a shitty life for that poor guy. He's just engineered to be used in Splatterball. Because it's a shitty life, because every game ends with him getting spiked on a giant spike of the opposing team. So it's not fun being a Splatterball ball. One thing I also wanted to point out is maybe I have a feeling this might have been a reason why this comic didn't take off is, well, one of many. There's so many like ugly fashions in this comic. Like, look at his terrible like 80s Jerry curl, whatever this is, mullet, Lorca's stupid Goldilocks hair. This comic reminds me of like if you look through a 70s magazine and the advertisements have just so many bad fashion choices where you're like, I can't believe people wore macrame tube tops or just the most ludicrous fashions that are just, they're homely. They're not attractive at all. And this comic is so full of that. There's so many ridiculous haircuts and fashion choices, but I mean, it is an alien world. So of course their fashions would be very different than ours. It just seems that they should look cool at least, but they don't. A lot of them just look like, oh God, that hair is ridiculous. So Ulnaray's got a lot of money riding on one of the teams, and His team loses. Here we see the little guy get spiked. So he goes to the betting counter, and they're like, oh, you lost a lot of money, you got no credit, so we're going to have to take an arm and a leg from you. And that's literal, because if you lose, they just chop off your arm and your leg. That's biomass. That's valuable currency on this planet. Anything is, it's valuable. But Lorca, he's a good buddy. He bails him out. He's got good credit there. So back at Ulnare's, cool, groovy pad, they're chilling, they're drinking, and Ulnare says, hey, I want to show you something. He's got this, almost like he rips open reality through the wall, and he pulls out this little girl. And this is the one I was telling you. This looks so much like a Steve Rude Nexus character, that crazy haircut. Now, this is Legion. She's extra legal. No records of her anywhere. I guess her parents were rebels or something. And so he's like, come on, dude. We can do anything we want to her. We can flay her, twist strip her, hand mulch her, anything. So we realize that fucking Ulnare's a fucking monster. Lorca's shocked, so much so that he basically he squeals on him. He calls the cops. And he basically says, man, if you don't turn yourself in, I will. You're disgusting. Now, Legion espouses some people on the planet don't go along with the whole idea that, we're all just cells in the organism. She says Legion is free entity. I won't be your pleasure zom. So these kind of cops, they're called the zoms. They're basically slaves. They don't really have much personality of their own. They just obey orders. And they run into the place, and Ulnare sweet talks them and lies. And because he's a very respected figure on this planet. So he makes up a story and gets off. So the cops leave. They take Legion into custody to put her in an orphanage. And Ulnare talks to Lorca, and we realize that he is going to be a serious threat to Lorca from now on. He is definitely going to get revenge on him. Unfortunately, 2 seasons later, Ulnare is raised to the position of Grand Inquisitor. So now he's Lorca's boss. So at his ceremony, there's Lorca, and then we meet Suracine. Now, Suracine is this kind of tackily dressed woman who is Lorca's lust mate in this world, because life is cheap. It also seems like they don't even have the idea of love, any kind of deep thing like that we'd understand. They don't have that. So they just have lust mates. So you're basically partnered with someone because to fuck and to hang out with and have a good time with. Suracine's very dedicated to Lorca. She's crazy about him. And she's also a nymphomaniac. Every single thing that Lorca does or says, she's like, oh, that really tweaks my nodes. Or some foul, innuendo type thing. It gets tiresome after a while, to be honest. Another thing about this comic is I don't like how everyone's yellow. I guess they are on this planet. That's their skin color. But it just gives everything a sickly appearance. Also, overall, the coloring I really do not like in this comic. It says Painted Colors by Janet Jackson. And not that Janet Jackson. She worked for Valiant and Defiant. But it just kind of not very nice colors. Kind of ugly, actually. Some of these colors are just weird color choices. Also, just look at it's almost like magic marker effect. It doesn't look very painted. So now we find out that all these years, Lorca's been keeping tabs on Legion. She's been in the orphanage. And he goes to visit her on graduation day at the school/orphanage. And I love how the kids who failed, they're getting mulched. If you don't get passing grades, they just mulch you. So he sees Legion with her silly haircut, and she's taken care of. She decided to stay on and work there because she just hates the society of Plasm. She wants to just be kind of removed from it. So, of course, they have fundamental differences. She just thinks he's a monster. And he obviously loves her. He's always trying to be like, I'm not like that. And look at these weird little mutant kids. They're kind of ridiculous looking. Everyone on Plasm, almost everyone, has weird, stupid body modifications. I guess that's a sign of status. If you can afford extra biomass, like a third arm, that's a sign of that's like owning a Porsche. So so many people in this comic have really stupid things like, oh, they've got a testicle coming out of their chin, or just really goofy looking modifications. So at the end of the scene, we realize through a viewfinder or some kind of televised thing, Ulnare's been keeping tabs on Legion too. And he knows that Lorca's been seeing her. So we see by his evil face that he's concocted some devious plan. So now we see Lorca fooling around with this Soracine. I'll see if she's saying something disgusting here. Well, she does say, that tweaks me. That's what she always says. That's her way of saying, that turns me on. So, after coming back from another successful conquest of a planet, we can tell that Lorca is not that thrilled with this life anymore. He's come around to Legion's point of view. Like, Soracine is just full on into it. She's like a warrior princess. I forgot to mention that, guys. She is like one of the best generals, military minds on the planet. And she's just like literally just reveling in the gore and blood that are covering her body. The splatter tastes good and coppery. Nice rich gore for the org. Of course, it tweaks her nose and it makes her horny. So now we see Lorca. He goes to visit Legion one more time. And he's like, listen. He basically tries to lay down the law and say, you've got to stop this stupid, individual, they call it monadism. You're being a stupid monadist. And so they kind of have this tender moment where everything kind of comes out. She's like, why do you care so much about me, Lorca? And, he's got to admit that he loves her. So Lorca's been working on this project. He's been looking for a place in the universe that, beyond this universe, where people are individuals. And, people aren't just cells in an organism that can be mulched at the drop of a hat. Of course, this whole time, Ulnare's keeping tabs on him. And now it looks like Legion and Lorca are pretty much in love. And he tells her his plan. And he also takes a lock of her hair. He says, I can make a Zom clone of you. They're going to clone themselves. They're going to set his mansion on fire, whatever his place. Then they'll find the bodies and they won't look for him. But they'll actually be off to this other place that Lorca found. A little planet called Earth. You probably saw that coming. So he's all excited. They're finally going to get away from this wretched planet. We see the Emperor Horch. He's a total ninny. He's a nincompoop. A drunken moron. And so Ulnare, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, this is a big ceremony. Lorca is now going to become a grand, whatever, he's getting a promotion. And Ulnare comes out and he accuses him of treason, and he's captured Legion. And he says, okay, prove your loyalty to the Emperor. You shouldn't care about killing this woman if you're not a monadist. Some of these faces are great, and then some of the faces are just kind of like, eh. Lapham does that a lot. That looks very Steve Rudy, too. So, Actually, Aldnoray shoots her and kills her. Once again, very Steve Rude. And basically, he tells the Emperor, he says, look at Lorca's face. I guarantee you'll see some emotion when I shoot this woman. And he's got a good poker face. He even says after he kills her, he says, what's your point? So he's tricked everyone. But of course, when he goes back to his mansion or whatever, he's all crying. But he does have the lock of her hair. So that's the end of Plasm number 0. We got some letter pages. We got lots of self-aggrandizing editorials from Jim Shooter and the people at Defiant. So now I'm going to, before we get to number 1, this was a free comic, I believe, maybe came in Wizard or something, maybe in previews. And this is just a little, almost like a little extra side story. This is called Splatterball, Skull Renders versus Sludge Makers. God, those names. And this is the same creative team did this. So this is focusing obviously more on the sport. And in this one, we're introduced to the character Grimax. He is the Michael Jordan of Splatterball. He's the all-time great. And we start off, and there's a game going on. So, as you can imagine, more important than coaches for these teams are their engineers. It's almost like in NASCAR. Sometimes in the middle of the game, a guy's arm's ripped off. He'll just, like, as quick as he can, give you a new arm. Or maybe give you some weird-looking axe thing on your arm. They don't care, whatever. He's called a de-enabler. That's a kind of a nod to Kirby, I think. So he's walking around, this de-enabler is walking around with his little apprentice. We see Aldnoray in the stands. Now, Aldnoray hates Grimax. Grimax has pissed him off before. So he likes to go to this, he almost he almost tortures himself by going to the games because Grimax always wins. He always wins. And Aldnoray always just glares and like, oh, he's hoping he's going to fail. So we realize that this de-enabler is compromised. He owes some money. He's a gambling addict. So basically, he's helped these crooked guys fix the game. They give him a bunch of plasm, this big wad of bioplasm, which is like thousands of dollars in our world, That's quite a payoff. So we see the game's about to start, and of course it's just pure pandemonium and mayhem. This game is just like, it's not really a sport, it's just slaughter, wholesale slaughter. And of course Grimax is doing great, but then all of a sudden, Grimax's own teammates start attacking him. One of them stabs him right through the gut. Because basically, these two Zoms that could kind of like duplicate people, they killed two of the, I didn't point it out earlier, sorry. They killed two of Grimax's teammates, took their places, and then attacked Grimax. But then it seems like the whole team attacks him. So of course the announcers are like, what the hell's going on here? The opposing player, who's basically the second best guy in the league, he hates Grimax. And the whole first half of the comic is threatening him and like, oh, I'm getting you tonight, Grimax. This is the night I fucking kill you. But then when he sees all the guys, his own teammates beating up Grimax, he says, no, I've waited too long for this. And so he's side by side with Grimax. He fights these guys off. The apprentice realizes that his boss is part of the plot. He says, you traitor. And but he pushes the kid away, the apprentice. And it looks like he kills him. He lands headfirst into this thing of plasm. So it's almost like these guys, they fight off everyone on the field, basically. And it seems like they're friends now, I guess through this bond. But this guy's name is Zygomaticus, by the way. There's some really funny names in this comic. Some of them are kind of neat, but then some are just very silly. So he says, no, we got to finish the game. And Grimmax kind of is like, you've killed hundreds of players you've respected. Don't you realize that? Ever feel like this is all wrong? But he, Grimmax seems to he actually questions things. But this Zygomaticus guy doesn't. He's just like, oh, I'm going to spike that critter. And Grimmax takes him out. So once again, he wins. But it's a sad victory for him. Because he just earned respect for this guy, but he killed him. And now we see Alnaray. And, I think he was behind the whole plot. He just wanted to take out Grimmax. Okay, guys, remember what I said about the hair? Grimmax, his costume looks kind of cool. He's almost like something out of the Road Warrior. But what the fuck is going on with this stupid hair? As if he's going through chemo and his hair's falling out. It doesn't look cool at all. It just looks very silly. Other than that, it'd be this kind of kick-ass, cool-looking guy. But then they give him this stupid hair where it's like, I think if, he had his own comic, kids would be like, oh, that guy's a weird-looking guy. So it looks like the de-enabler. He's trying to dispose of the apprentice's body, and the authorities show up. So he's going to pay the price for his crimes. Okay, now let's get into the meat of things. This is Warriors of Plasm #1, and cover solo by David Lapham on this one. Pretty nice cover. You could tell that David Lapham, at the time, I think, was under the influence of Frank Miller a little. Just a little. Just like you can see in wrinkles and stuff. And some of the creases on people's faces and wrinkles. Yeah. But this is some... If you can see this guy's in the background, there's some cool looking shit in this cover. And in the comic. So now we pretty much start where we left off. We see Lorca. Seems like he's, back in business. Conquering planets for the org. And look at this nice 2-page spread. This is Lorca and his forces have conquered this other planet, and they're mopping up. For some reason, there's lots of dogs on this planet. They didn't kill the dogs, even though they're going to because they're biomass. I just thought that was interesting, these random dogs thrown in. God, David Lapham fucking worked hard on this comic. I mean, love him or hate his art. He really put the work in. This is pretty impressive stuff. There's Suracine once again. The coppery tang of gore is so arousing. Fucking perv. And so Lorca shows up. And reunites with Suracine. He's licking the blood off of her hands. Once again, she won't shut up about how everything seems to tweak her. The slaughter, the reaping, the conquest. It never fails to tweak me. God, that hair of Lorca's, too, is just... That probably killed the chances of this comic right there. So they return to Org. The Org of Plasm. And everyone's excited because Lorca's coming back victorious again. He's a grand hero. Look at this panel. You get to see a lot of those stupid body modifications. Everyone just looks very silly. This guy turned himself into like a flying worm. What would be the advantage of that? It's just so dumb. There's a lot of goofy looking characters in here. But I do admire this panel just for being crammed with, he had to think about every character design on this. It's not like just drawing a city street in Manhattan, present day. So to all intents and purposes, Lorca seems to have reverted to his, pre-monadist life. He's cavorting with these pleasure zoms. But then when he's alone, this is kind of weird. He takes that strand of hair that he got from Legion, and every now and then he gets so lonely he has to see Legion again. So, in this world, this isn't hard to do. He says, make a clone of Legion again. The computer always says, clones are illegal, my lord. And he's like, yes, I know. Just make her. And the computer says, would you like me to teach her all about herself? So basically, this is Legion, for all intents and purposes. She has all of her memories. I don't know how that's possible, but she does. So he gets to embrace her for a little and talk to her about how his great plan is still going to happen, even though he's not going to escape to Earth. His plan is to basically abduct 10,000 humans, bring them to the org of Plasm, and experiment on them genetically, turn them into warriors that'll overthrow this corrupt system. And we see we're back on Earth. And there's this bug on this guy's wall. He goes to kill it. And it's actually this transporter. It looks like a bug, but it's really like a thing that if you touch it, it'll transport you back to the org. And we see people all over the world getting abducted. And then he throws them in these vats, these plasm vats. I guess it's called more fluid. And the idea is that they'll all be turned into amazingly powered beings. But right then, some of these police zombs say, Inquisitor Lorca, the resource police have noted a huge expenditure of biomaterial. We have to investigate. And then Lorca is distracted. His experiment's going awry. It seems like all the humans are just dying. Guys, I'm sorry. This is actually his zombs. They're not there to hassle him, but they're letting him know that the authorities are onto him. And they don't like it. The really perverse thing about him bringing back Legion all the time is that she's so individualistic that she totally would be against this. I have one life to live, and that's my life. I'm not going to be recycled. I don't believe in that. So the fact that he keeps bringing her back as a clone is really kind of like pissing on her grave, So Alnore, if you remember, he's Lorca's boss still, and he's calling Lorca to the mat. He's saying, get in my office right now. You got some explaining to do. So Lorca says, God damn it, everything's fucked. So he says that he tells his zombs, he says, destroy everything. Because I forgot to mention, 5 humans survive out of the 10,000. He says, kill them, get rid of all the biomass, and even Legion. So I guess he does this every few months. He gets lonely, clones Legion, but then kills her again, turns her back into biomass, because Legion was unique. Legion lived once and never again. Even though he keeps bringing her back. So Lorca, he's trying to be a better man, I guess, but he still has a lot of weird ideas of right and wrong. So now we see the recovery sack. We see the 5 humans, and these are going to be the warriors of Plasm. 5 characters. This young woman named Cookie. This big fat guy named Rick, who has 1 arm. This grandmother named Louise Johnson. Lois. No, it's Louise. A priest named Martin Gilbert. And this Army guy, U.S. Army Reserves guy's named Elvis P. Mazeroff, Lieutenant Elvis P. Mazeroff. All of a sudden, some of this biomass covers their bodies and gives them outfits, gives them clothing. And of course, these people never met each other. They're all confused. I got to give Jim Shooter credit. A lot of it's pretty naturalistic dialogue. A lot of Marvel DC comics, people say shit that they never would in real life. But these people are just like, sometimes it's a little hackneyed and repetitive, but they do sound like a bunch of people if they just were thrown together. What they would say. Now back to Ulnaray. Ulnaray's made his giant slug body for himself. It's just ridiculous. God, Lorca's hair. I just can't get over how dumb that looks. So once again, Ulnaray's trying to pin the charge of treason on Lorca. He knows he's up to something. Suracine shows up to defend him, to defend her lust mate. And to prove his loyalty, he says, okay. Ulnaray says, okay, Lorca, if you're not a monadist, here's a gun. You'll kill Suracine. It's it's no biggie if you really believe that we're all just individuals. And of course, Suracine, who totally believes in this system, she says, do it, lustmate. There is no death. Prove your loyalty. I relish returning to the ecstasy of oneness with the ecosystem of the orb. Apparently, the gun has no charge in it, even though Lorca did do the trigger. He was prepared to kill her. And so he's off the hook for a while. Now back to Lorca's Centrum. That's what the name of his mansion. And the Zobs are attacking our 5 Earthlings. And they all quickly realize that they all have special powers. This guy, Elvis, the lieutenant, he's really fast all of a sudden. And he's just really good at fighting. Cookie, the young woman, it seems like she's psychic now. And on a planet where everything is an organism, she can actually hear what the walls are saying, or, everything. So it's quite a good power in the planet. And the priest, the minister, he can control light now. And he can, summon light to him, like calling a dog, and then expel it. And Rick is super strong, the one-armed guy. And once again, guys, ugly costumes. It's just weird, bizarre, homely fashions. So they're fighting these Zobs. This is their trial by fire. And they're doing pretty good. They're pretty formidable with their powers. I like the scene where Rick knocks the head off a Zob, and then it's building itself back up. It's a pretty cool panel there. So, of course, they're like, what the hell's going on? Shit. We gotta run. So they have no idea where the fuck they are. So Lorca gets back to his Centrum, and it's like, what? They've escaped, these 5 guys? Fuck. God damn it. And so I guess Lorca's been working on a special genetically engineered thing as a present for Suracine. And he says, unleash it. Unleash the hounds, basically, on them. So, I forgot to mention, guys, the grandma. She's also pretty damn strong, and she seems like she's indestructible. And I really like the character of the grandma pretty quickly. I mean, she's just a grandma. I think she didn't even have a job. She was just a working, married to a guy, had kids. But she's a really strong-willed lady. She's kind of like Captain America, where she's the kind of person where she quickly steps up and people are just like, listen to her. She has this just inner goodness. And she eventually will be called Glory. That's her kind of superhero catch name, or whatever you call it, nickname. And kind of like her character. Very interesting having a grandma protagonist, a senior citizen. So here's the creature that Lorca made. I love this design. Look at this goofy thing. It's frightening and very goofy at the same time. So it comes running after them. And basically the warriors of Plasm just kind of run away. But then this thing is going to get them. And that's when the minister, Gilbert, uses his light powers and just blows it away by collecting all the light and throwing it. Pretty interesting panel there. The color effects there. God, so many bad haircuts. Fat mohawk. And so, of course, they're 5 normal people from Earth. So they're arguing sometimes. But mostly they're nice people, except for the lieutenant. He's kind of a dick. Now, interesting enough, because he's a good fighter and he was in the army, his nickname, his superhero nickname is Shooter. So, like, yeah, Jim Shooter is so pleased with himself, that guy, man. He is just... Can you imagine if this was a successful comic company? His head wouldn't be able to fit through the door. So now Lorca goes to all of his zombs. They go to stop these guys, but they escape. Let's see, anything else here? Another self-aggrandizing editorial from Jim Shooter, talking about how great he is. Warriors of Plasm number 2. Lapham and Weatherby do the cover on this one, and the art inside. And this is colored by someone named James Brown. So the first issue was colored by Janet Jackson, and the remaining issues are colored by James Brown. It's a little weird. And this one's called Epiphany, this edition agenda part 2. And they're back in New Jersey. They've teleported. What's her face? The young woman, Cookie, she talked to one of the transporter bugs and told it to bring them back to Earth, which is what's happened. So now they're in Jersey. They're arguing about what to do. And once again, kind of good dialogue where it's very believable. They're arguing about, like, oh, should we go to the military? Should we go to the cops? And they decide to find a policeman. They're traveling to the highway. Back on the org. God, some of this stuff is really imaginative and neat looking. Almost reminds me of a Prophet by, God damn it, I can't remember his name. But really good artist. David Lapham looks like he's having a good time, just letting his imagination go crazy. So now Lorca's hanging out with Suracine again. And now we meet Thorxolic. She's basically the second most successful general on the planet. So Suracine and her hate each other. They're like, kind of catty to each other. Because Thorxolic wants her, I'm just going to call her Thor, because even Lorca does. Thor wants her position, she wants to ascend. So back in New Jersey, they go to the cops. Of course, this captain thinks they're crazy. They're in a small town. And he's a nice guy, though. He's just like, why don't you guys just go home? Even on Earth, the haircuts are bad. He's got a terrible mullet, this guy. Back on the org. I'm sorry. No, they're on Earth now. So Lorca and Suracine have come to Earth. And, God, she just doesn't stop, Suracine. Every other panel is her, like, Lorca says any random thing, and she's like, oh, my lust mate, that really tweaks my nodes. So now outside the cop station, our 5 heroes are just going to kind of throw in the towel. We also find out that Shooter has a second power. He can just go into stealth mode and become invisible. He's like the ultimate ninja. That's what he claims. So Glory, Glory's the strong one. She says, guys, fuck this. Well, she doesn't say that because she's a very nice old lady. But she says, I'm going back in that cop station. I'm going to explain it to these guys. And she basically just lays it down like, listen, we're citizens. We're asking for protection. You have to. And then right then the Zoms and their little monsters show up. They attack the police station. They put these like things that are like sedative squids. They shoot them on our heroes' faces. So it knocks them out, as the name implies. The cops fight back bravely, but obviously to no good effect. This almost looks like Mazzucchelli or something. Well, old Mazzucchelli. So now we see all of our heroes are captured in this kind of whatever the hell this is, some org device. And then the captain shows up and he says, "You're all under arrest." And she orders one of the Zoms to kill him. And Glory's awake at this point. Glory says, "Oh my God, they're going to kill him." And Glory uses her amazing strength, busts free of her bonds, and knocks the Zom over. And then all the other ones are freed, all the other heroes, and it becomes a full-on melee. Some of these colors are almost kind of like nausea-inducing. Kind of interesting, though. So here we go, whole big kick-ass battle. Kind of fun stuff. And then the people from the org zap back to their own dimension. The policeman apologizes for not believing him. And all of our heroes agree that they have to go back too. They've got to stop this world because they're going to keep attacking Earth until they take over and mulch everyone. Okay, Warriors of Plasm number 3. I don't even know why I'm continuing this video. I have a feeling everyone's turned it off by now. Since nobody likes this comic. I swear to God, guys, these are fun to read. It's probably just me. I don't know. These covers are kind of fun. So back in the org. This is Ordeal, part 3 of this edition agenda. So now Ciricine's starting to realize that maybe Ulnar is right. She's like, "What's up with these 5 guys? You were up to something. You weren't just testing them genetically. The powers that they have, you were planning something, but she doesn't quite know." And she really is blinded by her love of Lorca. She really loves him. So they're kissing, and she looks out the corner of her eye, and it's our 5 heroes. They're on the ship because, of course, Cookie can nudge it with her mind. She can control basically any life form. And the Earthlings have brought the battle to the org. This is a really interesting panel here where there's all this white space and the color is just coming out and you can see the brushstrokes of it. Really nothing else in this comic has that effect. I thought that was really cool looking. And also that's a great blue. That's a beautiful shade of blue. So it's this huge fight. Everyone's just like, these 5 guys are kicking all our asses. They're really beating the shit out of like hundreds of Zoms and Ciricine's forces. So I'm not going to do blow by blow, but fun chase scenes and, lots of good battling, good fighting, kind of fun stuff. So they escape. Our 5 heroes escape. They crash into this party. And once again, we get to see lots of weird, goofy aliens. And they basically say, "We need information about the Org of Plasm. Can you tell us about your planet?" And this guy says, "I'll go to the plaster baths." So the Zoms show up again. So they're like, "Quick, we got to run." And then I love this. You see this little girl. And she says, "Hey, strangers, you can hide in here. I just want to help." And after they run into this aperture, we see that the little girl is just on the end of a tentacle. She's almost like a little flesh puppet, a meat puppet. And she lured them into this mouth, which then closes. Look at those lips. That's kind of a rated X right there. So it turns out they land. It's Ulnare's Centrum, whatever he calls his mansion. And now he pretends like he's not such a bad guy. And he says, "Oh, those people following you, they're my enemies too." He lies to them. They think he's okay. He offers them food. The food is really gross. It's alive. Noodle worms and they move. He even says, "Isn't the mucus sauce delicious?" And Cookie barfs. So Glory's asking him about Plasm, like what's going on with this planet? And he kind of gives her the ground rules, how the planet, is a organism. So he gives them some quarters to rest in. And I love this alien sculpture, this org art. And he sends basically Oob, who is Alnare's favorite grafter. He basically is there to like give them, hey, you want a fourth nipple on your forehead? Whatever, those guys do. Like the enabler type guy. Turns out he's with the resistance. So he kind of teams up with them and says, listen, guys, you've got to join us. Nookie looks into his head and realizes he's genuine. And he says, meet me at the Splatterball game later. A lot of the rebel leaders will be there, and they're going to want to talk to you. Because I heard about how you fought the whole army to a standstill. So you could be just the thing we've been waiting for to help us in our revolution. Now, Alnare summons Surasine to talk. They compare notes, and she's still defending Lorca, but she's pretty convinced that Lorca's up to something shady. So meanwhile, Shooter has gone out in the stealth mode, invisible. He's tracking Surasine, and he goes to her apartment, and she's naked, and she says, you can come out now. I know you're there. And they actually have sex, which is kind of weird for like a mainstream comic. I like how even though she's this warrior queen, she's all acting submissive. She's like, I surrender to you. Kiss me, overwhelm me. So when he's done, he goes back to the group who have all been modified. This is just temporarily. This is all like whatever, makeup and latex or whatever they have on the planet. And so they can fit in. I like some of these designs. They're very silly and funny. This guy, they turn Rick. He almost looks like Charlie. Or Flytrap, from Charlie and Flytrap. So they go to the Splatterball game. They meet the rebel leaders. And then all of a sudden, the Zoms show up. And start mowing down the rebels. Meanwhile, we see Grimax. And we see from his thoughts, he's a rebel too, but he can't really help them because our 5 heroes run right out onto the Splatterball field. And he can't play his hand, in front of millions of people. He can't let people know he's a rebel. So this is Glory with her cone head and 4 arms. So all of a sudden, all the Splatterball players attack them. God, look at this thing Lorca's wearing. He's wearing like a net shirt over some other shirt. And it looks like he's wearing blue tights. There's so much bad fashion in this. And guys, I know nothing of fashion. I'm nobody would ever accuse me of being fashionable. But I know what I don't like. And that's just gross. Look at this thing. It looks like he's wearing a flannel shirt. So this turns into a pretty kick-ass fight. Just all the Splatterball players are teamed up against our heroes and just trying to kill them. And we end with a cliffhanger where Surasine's finally had enough, and she knows Lorca is a traitor, and she's going to stab him. Looks like she's about to stab him. Let me get some water, guys. So now we're up to number 4. Nice cover by Lapham. That's a nice splash page. This one's called Glory. And now Mike Witherby's joined by Bob Downs on inks, but still the same creative team roughly. Maybe the letter has changed. I don't really care. So look at this fucking melee on the Splatterball field. It's nuts. And then the Zoms show up. Meanwhile, Lorca's trying to talk Surasine down. Basically, he's lying to her. He's like, I'm not a traitor. I'm the most loyal servant to the Emperor. So Grimmax busts into the broadcasting booth. He commandeers the camera, and because he sees how well these guys are doing, he's like, oh my God, this revolution could work. But it looks like there's just too many Zoms. We need help. Look at this fucking thing Lorca's wearing. Ridiculous. So, Surestein tries to stab Lorca, and luckily an explosion goes off. Her aim is messed up. Just gets him in the shoulder, so he's not dead. And meanwhile, Grimmax is on every TV station on the planet saying, rise up. Basically, talking monetist stuff. It seems a very easy. Almost everyone on the planet watching the screen is all like, hey, he's right. After millions of years of thinking this way, this one guy comes on TV. He is a hero, though. Everyone looks up to him. But it did seem a little easy. We also see a little foreshadowing here. This creature under the sewer grate. Now we see the Emperor with his vizier, or whatever you call that, his main assistant, Lictor. And he's completely drunk, the Emperor. And Lictor's a complete dick. He kind of controls the Emperor. So Grimmax, it seems to work. All the citizens of the Orc come out. And they're like, death to the Emperor. There's just so much zaniness in every panel. Like, David Lapham is just, most comics you can fall back on, like, oh, I know what a car looks like, or whatever's going to be in a panel. But everything in here is something he's got to create. Every character is some bizarre, goofy-looking alien. Every object and aircraft and airship is some bizarro kind of fish monster or whatever. So it looks like our 5 heroes are overwhelmed on the Splatterball field. There's just too many of the Zoms. And so Lorca gets on the referee's floater, and he basically says, basically the umpire, they call it. And he says, listen, floater, I'm the new umpire. I call a penalty on every single plasmoid and Zom. Enforce the penalty. And all of a sudden, every Zom and person from Plasm melts into the ground, is eaten by the ground. So the field ate him. So that's what this game does. Like, if you have a penalty, they don't just put you in the box. The field eats you. So they're the only ones left standing. And Lorca approaches them. And they're like, hey, you're the guy who killed us or tried to kill us earlier. But he explains it to him. And he's like, hey, I had to protect my cover, but listen, this revolution can work with your help. It's the only way. Meanwhile, Thor, the great general, she's trying to tell the Emperor that, oh my God, your life's in danger. The rebels are getting closer. You're going to lose everything. But he's so drunk he doesn't care. And also Lictor is such a scumbag, he won't even let her in unless she licks his toes. And he's just trying to humiliate her. Even though she's like trying to save everything. She's like, we got to do something. Once again, Lorca summons Legion. I guess he's feeling sad and lonely. And then he kills her again. This time, though, Glory sees it. And she's like, what kind of fucking monster are you? This whole planet. You people are twisted. But she realizes they're going to have to change this whole world. Because they're always going to be a threat to planet Earth. If they're all just like always lusting for more biomass. Meanwhile, at the Great Palace of the Emperor, Grimmax is leading the rebels. So here's a little article about Defiant getting sued by Marvel over that Plasma comic. And I guess Defiant won, but it cost them $200,000 in legal fees. And I've read articles that say that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And Defiant might have gone on for another year or two. Maybe they would have had a hit comic eventually, and they could have gone on for a long time. But that was not the case. So now we see back at the palace, Thor is telling the palace guard are called the Purges. They're like the ultimate fighters. She's like, you have to summon them. The king's life is in danger. He's like, oh, I can only do that if the king commands me to. Meanwhile, inside, Ulnaray, he shows up and he kills Thor, the general. I was kind of liking her character. Now we go down to the sludge sumps. These are basically the sewers of the org. And these guys live down there. They're the sludge slaves. I kind of like these guys. They look like cavity creeps mixed with like the mindless ones from Doctor Strange. They kind of talk like, brutes. They're just like, ugh. And they say, one of them realizes that there's a riot going on upstairs, There's a rebellion. So they're like, this is our chance. Let's go up there and drag down those who condemned us. I don't know why I really love this panel. Just looking down at their sewer, this beautiful green here. It's almost like a just nice piece of abstract art. And back to Lorca and our 5 heroes. Now, I'm sorry. That was just for a panel or two. Now we're back to Ulnaray. He's in the king's chamber. He's barged in. Yes. Bitch slaps that guy. Whatever his name is. This guy calls him Phlegm Bot. But that guy escapes. The vizier. And then Ulnaray makes a duplicate copy of the emperor. He's got some kind of plan he's scheming. We see those sludge slaves waiting for the door to open. Because eventually this thing has got to open. The valve. Because to let waste it, So they're biding their time. Now, Ulnaray uses this fake image of the emperor to basically say, hey, you rebels, I'll give each of you a flask of Plasm if you defend me and start killing your fellow, anyone who rebels against me. So they instantly start fighting amongst themselves. The Purges, the palace guard, enter the fray, and they're just juggernauts. They're almost unstoppable. And it does not look good for the rebels. But then Lorca shows up and rouses everyone up, rouses their spirits. These people are very easily swayed, the people of Org. Because they're all ready to kill each other for a flask of Plasm. But one little speech from Lorca, and they're like, yeah, let's kill the Emperor again. And then we see this big battle scene. Look at this. There's a double fold out here. Pretty crazy. The weird thing is this is like an expensive thing to do. That comics would do it more often if it wasn't. What a freaking waste this is that he didn't commission 4 more pages from Lapham. So not only would you wouldn't have this. It's a total interruption in the comic. But then you could have a double page spread here. You know what I mean? It's just like so dumb. And a double page spread here. And the first one. So it's such a waste of very silly. But it's kind of cool that they added that. It really gives a scope to the battle. So things are not going good for the palace guard. They're kind of running away. Lichter shows up. Lichter's that guy, the vizier. And he says, I know where the emperor really is. He's trapped in this closet. Because Ulnaray kept him alive in case he had to question him about certain things. So Ulnaray is trying to escape. He's running away through the lower ducts. And then who should show up but the sewer slaves. I'm sorry, the sludge slaves. And they're like, look, the Grand Inquisitor, he who condemns us, drag him down, drag him in, drag him through. So now we see Lorca and our 5 heroes are in the palace chamber there. And then Suracine shows up with a fresh crew of Zom soldiers. And Lorca basically says, do your worst. And Lorca says, I do my duties to the Emperor. It always comes first. Hail Emperor Lorca. And she gets down on her knees. She says, you are the Emperor now. Oh, and of course she has to mention, have I ever told you how power tweaks me? God. That lady needs to take a cold shower. So, it's a beautiful day. 3 days later, it's a beautiful dawn. And our 5 heroes, they're like, yeah, we did a good job, but we might have to stick around a while to make sure, they don't go back to their bad ways. So that's it for the sedition agenda. Is that right? The sedition, yeah. So there you go, guys. If any of you are still watching this program, this video, there you go. I don't know if these look interesting to you. I had a great time reading these last night. I liked the characters are fun, or well, at least they're mildly interesting. And man, just so many goofy, crazy concepts in here. I love it. The one trading card one that I told you about earlier, Dark Dominion, that was the second title they published. That one I really love. Still annoyed that comic didn't continue. Such a great concept. This one got a little tiresome after a while, but the Dark Dominion, maybe in a few months I'll show you the Dark Dominions. But guys, unfortunately, I got to tell you, this is the first part of 3. I'm going to do 3 back-to-back Warriors of Plasm episodes. So I understand if you don't want to stick with me and whatever. But I got to do it. I got to follow my heart. And I guess I'm a maverick when it comes to Defiant Comics. I'm defiant to the comic book intelligentsia. But yeah, I hope you liked it. Maybe there is someone out there who likes it. I would love, if any of you liked these comics at one point, even when they came out or even now, I would love to hear a comment from you and just say, yeah, I dug these comics too. You're not alone. Because I feel like I'm going crazy when I read these. But I do like them. And they're definitely going to stay in the Academy until I die, I guess. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Plasm. No, I'm sorry. Of Comic Book Studies. Bye.